Hey everybody, it's Saturday night. You know what that means? You are not going out. That's right, you are not going out. Or Mary, my producer, will come hunt you down. Well, actually, she won't come hunt you down because she's not allowed to leave her house, but she will hunt you down. You are not going out. It's Saturday night. You are staying in tonight, and we're here to bring you another episode of the Producer's Perspective Live. I just noticed this is zipped very high because my daughter, as I was putting her to bed, was closing it like this. So I'm just going to do that a little bit. Anyway, it's Saturday night, episode number 6. And what a guest we have for you tonight. One of the smartest musical theater writers across all the different platforms. Stephen Flaherty, the Tony Award-winning Stephen Flaherty. We're talking Ragtime. We're talking Once on This Island. We're talking Lucky Stiff. How about that? My Favorite Year, which is one of my favorites. Anastasia, and a whole ton more. What a thrill to have him here with us tonight. Before we get to him, just first of all, thank you so much for embracing this platform and what we're doing here. Thank you so much for embracing our hashtag, stay safe, stay healthy, stay home, as I talked about. That's why we're doing this, to provide you with another dose of entertainment or whatever you call this. I don't know if you could really call it entertainment, because I sometimes think I'm funny and I'm not really that funny. I think Kathy Gilmore knows exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, that's why we're bringing you something live for you to keep you entertained throughout this process, and we'll keep doing it every single night. Tonight, Stephen Flaherty. Tomorrow, Pam McKinnon. Next week, Mary, our producer, who is at home, not going to hunt you down. Show them every who else we got coming up. We got Steven Sater. Another Steven. That's 3 Stevens in 7 days, by the way. Steven Schwartz, Stephen Flaherty, Steven Sater, all musical theater writers. If you're born Steven, or if you're about to have a child, consider, and you want that child to be a musical theater writer, you should consider naming them Steven, apparently. So I don't know. If that's what you want for your kid, Steven is the way to go. So Jen Tepper, all those other amazing folks that are coming up. Kenny Leon just signed up. Mary Lou Henner's coming. Jason Alexander's coming. Kate Rockwell is coming. We have an incredible lineup over the next several weeks, because it looks like we're going to be hunkered down for the next several weeks. So we're going to bring you some more people. That's what we're going to do until we can go back to theater and everything else that out there that we love. Keep the questions coming. Fire those questions into the live comment section. I'm going to flip over there right now. So fire the questions in there, and I will ask Stephen. If you want certain guests on, email me, ken@theproducersperspective.com. Just that, ken@theproducersperspective.com. Email him to us. Email that to us, and whatever you want, who you want, and we'll try to get them. And you can help. Tweet at these folks. Tweet at them, email them, nudge them, whatever you can do. We'll try to get them on, because we're coming to you live 7 days a week. It's Saturday night, and we're here doing this. A shout out, normally we give a big shout out to the Actors Fund, but I wanted to give a shout out today to another very important organization that Stephen's going to talk about. It's the Dramatists Guild Foundation. This is a very important organization that helps writers for the theater. Writers are treated very differently than all of the other folks that are salaried employees on Broadway that may get help in ways that writers don't, right? So Stephen's going to talk about that, but throw up that website. Anyone interested, check out dgf.com. We are also about to activate dgf.org, sorry. We're also about to activate a fundraiser platform on my Facebook page for these charities. So check that out. We should have that up in the next 24 hours or so. Check it out if you want to give. I was trying to figure out a way to do Dollar Saturday. People know what Dollar Saturday is. You throw in a buck, and we do 50-50, and half of it goes to the charity. We didn't figure it out this week. Next week, that's right, gambling. Right here in the Producer's Perspective Live. And cops, police, FBI, come on. What are you going to do? Come after me. I don't really care. So gambling next week. This week, however, Stephen Flaherty. Let's bring him on right now, the Tony Award-winning Mr. Stephen Flaherty.
Hey, how are you, Ken? Thanks for having me. Hi. How are you?
I'm so glad to see you. How are you?
It's great. I'm coping like all the rest of us, and we're trying to find our ways to be creative within our homes, and to keep the good energy going forward, and trying to keep in touch with our friends, in our communities.
So tell me where you were and what you were doing when the virus hit the fan, as I like to say.
Yeah, well, last week we were in Sarasota, Florida, Lynn Ahrens and I and Frank Galati, and we were working on a world premiere new musical called Knoxville that was commissioned by the Oslo Repertory Theater in Sarasota, and that's it. That's
There you go.
Yes, yes. And we were finishing up the third week of rehearsals, and it was going beautifully. And we were having our gearing up for our first orchestra rehearsal, which was going to be the following week. And 4 days earlier, we had heard that Broadway had shut down. So we knew we were living in our little Sarasota bubble. And we knew it was only a matter of time before we were most likely going to be shut down as well. But the theater, they allowed us to go forward, and we were going as far as we could, our little troupe. And I should point out, we were sort of in a weird way self-quarantined, because we were all staying at the same hotel. Mm-hmm. So we would be at the hotel in our little group, we would go to the theater, and sort of late in the afternoon on last Monday, we were told that the production was shutting down. Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden, the actors, everybody that was working there had to scramble basically to get home, to get back to their loved ones, to get their lives in order. So Lynn was not a fan of getting on a plane at that point. So she and Jason Daniele, who was our leading man, they did a road trip. And they Florida to upstate New York, where both of them have houses maybe 5 minutes apart. And I would check in to see what they were up to on their trip, and they would be saying things like, "Oh, we're buying beef jerky in Virginia," it's that kind of a trip, So my husband Trevor, we have a place in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. So he was in Puerto Vallarta, planning to come to Sarasota for the previews and the opening. And I said, I'm going to try my darndest to get to you. So it was one of these hair-raising 2-day, 4-airport, 3-flight journeys to get here. Oh, and while you're trying to self-distance, so while you're trying to the whole time. So it was rather intense, I have to admit. But that's where I am now, and we're self-quarantining and doing our activities within the home, and being creative as we adapt to this new kind of life.
It must have been so difficult when you're your third week of rehearsal, you're gearing up. It's almost getting. I mean, this is a world premiere, so you've never seen it fully produced. You're That's so right. close. This happened. How do you get through that?
I think it was difficult emotionally for all involved. I think the further we got into it, it started getting scarier. And yet at the same time, there's the logical part of your brain, and then there's the creative part of your brain, which wants you to stay in this little bunker, creating theater, even if no one is ever allowed to come into the physical theater. And we just focused on the work, and the work was beautiful. I should point out that Knoxville is based on the novel A Death in the Family by James A.G. And A.G. is actually a character in the piece. The script is by Frank Flaherty, who directed Ragtime, and he's also directing this piece. And it brings up a lot of big questions, mortality being not the least of them. So there was something about feeling vulnerable, examining our mortality, trying to find adversity, and it's about getting through adversity and trying to turn it around to a positive, to make that something creative, the way you can take it. And in our piece, don't want to give too much away, but it's the adult James A.G. who's coming to terms with what happened to him whenever he was 6, because the novel is a memoir, and it's based on real events. And so, yeah.
What I love about what you do is you have such a diversity in your work. You can do something like Ragtime, which is obviously has a ragtime style and feel to it, although there's lots of different musical styles in that. You can do Once on This Island, which is very different. My favorite year, which is one of my personal favorites, and I can't wait to see that sucker come back.
I'm glad that you like that one. We've been working off and on over the years on that one. That was like sort of the one that got away for us, that we thought we didn't quite nail, and there's unfinished business there. So we will see. We will see. Yeah.
You heard it here first, everyone. My favorite year is coming back. That's what we're saying. We're gonna make it happen just by spreading that juicy rumor. But how do you shift like that in your mind, different musical styles? Like, what do you do to prep when you're about to write a musical style that you may have never written with before?
All I think is it's got to be pretty much how actors prepare. When you're taking on a role, obviously it's not your life story, it's not your background, and you have to imagine yourself in that person's shoes, and you have to imagine how that feels. And I always work from an emotional point of view. That's really where I work from to begin with, to try to get the emotional core of what a story is, or a character, or a scene. And oddly, I'm very eclectic in my musical tastes. I listen to all kinds of music, and I try not to do too much research before I begin the very first work. I try to just do my impulse and what I'm feeling about it, and then I do a ton of research. Once we're moving, from the platform, I do a lot of research. For Knoxville, it was really interesting because it was an Americana piece, and it's about a small community in Knoxville, Tennessee, in 1915. That said, I didn't want it to repeat, elements of Ragtime, because that's not too dissimilar time-wise. So I really wanted it to be a casual chamber music score. And I began to think of how people might have entertained themselves. And there's even a passage from A.G. about people entertaining themselves on the porch and rocking. And so I thought it would be an interesting idea if our actors also often played instruments. So if you're not in a scene, you could go over and pick up a guitar, and you could accompany that scene, and then you would become the lead in this scene. And so there's a lot of fluidity in terms of how we use the music. It has a folk music / country American quality to it. It's very delicate, very laid back, but I think it really sounds like the heart of America. That was my goal. That's really what I wanted it to sound. Whether it sounds like that or not, that was the goal.
That's good. Well, listen, I want, before we get to my question about a specific show that you composed and how that came about, Joe Krantz wants to hear the story of how Wheels of a Dream came to be. Literally, I've spent my life trying to write Wheels of a Dream.
The real honest story?
Yes, please.
Well, we knew that there was going to be a moment in the show where Colehouse and Sarah are united, and that moment sort of happens towards the end of the song that is prior to New Music, which is prior to Wheels of a Dream, which is New Music. That's where they're physically united, and then it's followed by this very intimate two-character scene, and we knew that was going to be the moment. And that was, everybody is always interested, which is first, music or lyrics, or, and for us, a lot of the times music is first, and oftentimes lyrics are first if it has to do with a lot of plot points, and a lot of the times we're together in the room at the same time. But for Wheels of a Dream, it was music first. And oddly, we had been talking about the moment in a creative meeting up in Toronto with our friend Garth Drabinsky and Frank Galati and Terrence McNally and the entire team about what the emotional feel would be of this moment. And then I walked to the elevator, and as I got on the elevator, I got the tune. It just came to me very quickly. And I said to Lynn, I got to get to the hotel room really fast because I have to work this out at the piano, and I have to get this, on my little teeny recorder. We had these little, cassette recorders back in the day. And that was pretty much the tune. And I shared it with Lynn, who then developed the lyric. It went through multiple drafts of lyric. The original title was America's Child. And it was like literally talking about the baby. And then we felt, no, this needs to be a metaphor, and needs to be about having access, how you get to where you need to go, how you can actually get in. And then we realized that the car was, the symbol for the access to go to the future. We felt it needed a middle section, and we didn't have that middle section yet. And so again, it came music first. Lynn and I were in a cab trying to get from the east side of Manhattan to the west side of Manhattan, and the tune came to me. Again, it came to me like and fully formed. And again, I had to run and try to write it down very quickly. And that's the middle section where he's talking about the wheels are turning for us, girl, and the time is starting to roll. And that was music first, and then Lynn set that, and that was pretty much the song. And I think the funny thing is, if you think about it, it's about machinery taking a person from one place to another. And I wrote it on an elevator and in a car, in a cab. So it was two pieces of machinery taking me to different places, and I have no idea why melodies or things come to me when they do. It's sort of a magical thing. I do think it's a magical thing. I don't try to overthink it. I just have to trust that things will come. And that was a strange one, because neither of those parts of the song were written at the piano.
Once in the silence, tell everyone how you wrote that one, because I always found that interesting. You did that just walking about, right? It was Once in the silence.
Oh yeah, well, you know what? I was approaching it in not the right way at the beginning. I was trying to write that one at a keyboard again, and I thought that there's something very European when you're at a keyboard, and the people in Once in the Silence, they don't hang out at keyboards. There are no piano bars in their community, that we know of. And I thought I have to get the rhythm in my body, so I would just start walking around Manhattan and feeling the groove and feeling the beats. And the entire chorus of We Dance came to me. We Dance, there's a little keyboard back here. Whoa. That part. So that really came to me, and it seemed natural, and it seemed rhythmic. It seemed of the world. It didn't seem intellectual. I think originally I was thinking too much, and I had to get out of my head. And so with a lot of that show, I thought, don't write it at the piano. Write it walking around. And I would find myself singing through as I'm walking through the streets of Manhattan, and I'm sure people thought I was crazy. One guy said, "Don't let anybody tell you that you can't sing." And I thought, does that mean that I can't sing, or does that mean that he's rooting for me? I thought it maybe meant both. So.
And obviously still working, but you're separated from your writing partner of so many years, right? So what's it like? How do you write?
Well, this is an interesting thing. It's been a bit of an experiment since we have this place in Mexico that we love dearly. We love the people here. We love the culture. There's a real kindness, a real sense of community. There's a lot. We're in like the old section of town, which is like a very historic place. So various composer friends of mine had started working remotely, and they said, I was talking to Tom Kitt, for example, because I thought what he did in Next to Normal, he and Brian, was extraordinary, because it was such a particular, unique, odd tone that they had to get, and it was really unique and special what they did. And I said, you guys must have been in the room all the time for to develop that. And he says, we were never in the room together. So Brian was in Los Angeles, I was in New York, and we worked via Skype, and I would send MP3s and he would send scenes. And so we decided this January that we would do a little bit of an experiment. We had gotten a film project, and so we were writing songs and demoing them for this film. And I said, why don't we try the working remote thing for just the month of January and see how that goes? And it'll be different, but I think it could be as productive and very good. So we were doing meetings for Knoxville, and we were writing for the film, and it worked amazingly well. And then we would come back to New York and then do the demos with our friends there. And who knew that was going to be like a test pad for where we are now, because we we didn't see this coming, but luckily they'd oddly done like an out of town, literally an out of town, this January. So, we'll see how it is going forward. I'm just getting my sort of life in my little makeshift studio up and running now.
Did you enjoy it? Is it different? How's it working for you, the remote?
It was different because it was a little bit. I think Lynn thinks a lot of like the Skype and the modern stuff is like the Jetsons. Remember that show? Where everything is a little space age and a little sci-fi. And I know that if she had her druthers, she would like to be in the room, because that's really how we've written for so many years. And then bit by bit, some of it would be written not in the room, but we would always be coming back into the room together. And it's with how things are going, I don't know when we're going to get back into that room. It's I don't think any of us know. So we're just kind of rolling with it. We have a little project that we're doing for a recording coming up, and it's all about people making things from home. So we'll see how that goes. We promised them a song, so we'll see how that goes.
I just love that phrase. You're rolling with it. It's what we, as theater people, I think do very, very well. We have no choice. The curtain goes up, and certainly what the world is doing right now. We have to roll with this thing until it's over. So we're gonna take some more questions, but before we do, I just wanted to take a moment to, of course, pay our respects and to say my condolences to you on the loss of Terrence, who, of course, I know was a dear, dear friend and collaborator for so long on many shows, including Ragtime, of course, and Anastasia.
Yeah, we've written. Oh, there he is. God bless him. Mm-hmm. We've worked with Terrence 3 times. We've written 3 musicals with him. He's one of a kind. He's made me a better person, as well as just better at everything that I do. And it's been a gift to work with him and to get to know him and to become his friend. And the weird thing is, he was on his way to Sarasota, where he has a home, and we actually thought if we didn't have lockdown, we would have seen him together. And as it turned out, we had to return home as he was arriving there. And it's been a rough week, but at the same time, I know that it's really about remembering what he meant to us, to all of us, to the theater community, and celebrating that. Because I don't think he would like for 1 second, people sort of being blown about it. He was somebody who really celebrated every moment. And I think he would just say, everybody, you have to find a way to continue, And so that's what we're doing. And I do have to say, though, these last couple of years, with him getting a chance to see all of these productions of Anastasia and all of these countries, throughout Europe, it's in Tokyo. It just reopened in Tokyo. And, I think he's really gotten a kick out of that, to see all these multi-language productions of the show. And, and it's great. We spent so many crazy out-of-town moments together. It's just wonderful, that we had a chance to really be in the trenches of music theater.
It's great. Pamela Corinne asks, how do you I have the same question, because you've written so many different types of musicals again. How do you decide what you're going to base a musical on? Do you read a ton? In other words, where do you get your ideas for your shows? Are they yours? Are they Lynn's? Where do they come from?
Well, it's interesting. A lot of what we do, I find, is based on what we have just done. So I know that whenever we did Ragtime, it was the kind of show that I had been waiting to write my entire life. A big, juicy musical drama. That said, our leading man is shot on stage every night, every performance, and there is a collective heaviness that came from that. And I said to Lynn, for our next show, I wouldn't mind doing something that's a little more playful, that's a little lighter, and it doesn't have to be like a dumbed down kind of show. I said, but I think playing in lighter colors might be good for us, and that was Seussical. Mm-hmm. So that's how Seussical really came to be, and Lucky Stiff, which was our first show. And I'm glad you mentioned it. It's such a cult show. For some reason, it's enormous in Germany. We can't figure that out, but they love it in Germany. But that being our first show, we found out that anytime there was any emotion at all, that it would derail the farce train, you know, and it would just, and we would lose the show. We couldn't get it back. So after working for a couple of years on something that had absolutely no emotional content, I said to Lynn, I have so much welled up in me. I said, it doesn't matter what we do, I really want to do something that has an emotional core to it following. And Lynn found the novel that became Once on This Island. Mm-hmm. And that was really the reason. I mean, it had nothing to do with the music, but at that, or that cultural idea, but at that time, I had been listening to a lot of world music. This was right after Paul Simon's Graceland had hit. And so I was listening to a lot of African music, a lot of Caribbean music, a lot of, world music. And I had never thought, oh, that could be the basis potentially for a theater score. It was just that Lynn, by total happenstance, happened to find that book. It sort of fit the bill with having emotional content as well as vibrancy. And that was tricky for me. You know, I had to give myself permission to write that show, you know. Mm-hmm. And once I got beyond that, and that's a whole nother long story, which I won't delve into, but that allowed me to have the courage and felt, okay, I can tell this story. It's, you know, but a lot of it really honestly has to do with seeing films, talking to people, reading. I tend to be like a crazy filmophile, where Lynn is a voracious reader. And we're always just looking for really wonderful stories that we connect with. And but for us also, it has to do with what we've just done. So it's interesting. So after Anastasia, which was, you know, a big sort of sweeping historical romance with a pop feel to it, Knoxville, which is very quiet and very reflective and very roots, and it just seemed something that we were really attracted to, and we just fell in love with the idea. And nobody says no to Frank Galati. He's too much. He's too wonderful to work with. You know, we just wanted to work with Frank again.
Listen, when he may not even remember this, but of course he was the director of Ragtime. And for those of you who don't know, the first time I met Steve and I was the assistant company manager on the original company of Ragtime, which I always say that was my graduate school, because as I, like, in between filling out house seat orders and paying bills, I would literally sneak up into the theater and just watch the show and get a master class in musical theater in every aspect, from the music to the lyrics to Peter Friedman to Frank Galati to like, it was just an incredible thing to be a part of.
It was great. I think one of the reasons that show did well artistically was everybody that worked on it did more than one thing well. Like Graciela, who was billed as choreographer, was also an amazing director. And Lynn, who was billed as lyricist, is also a wonderful book writer in her own right. Santo, who did the gorgeous costumes, is also a set designer. So everybody was so tuned to what everybody else was doing. And Frank, he comes from the group theater movement in Chicago. You know, he's a Steppenwolf member for years. And he would encourage everybody to bring all of their best ideas into the room. And so if you got a great idea from a lighting designer that would help you with a song, which actually, you know, we did, you know, everybody was so open and excited about doing it. And you knew that if there were 9 or 10 smart people in the room, that somebody would solve your problem.
Yeah, it's like intersecting circles, if you will.
That's right.
Like, I've never thought of that. It's so genius when assembling a creative team to think about people that also do other things, so you get the crossover from all of them. Frank was an Academy Award nominated screenwriter as well, right? For The Accidental.
I mean, he's a really interesting fellow. He's also an actor. He's a writer of screenplays. He adapts works of literature to theater. He's a wonderful teacher. He taught for years at Northwestern in their literature as performance program. Mary Zimmerman, who's a wonderful director in her own right, was his student. So many people were his students. And he's one of these people that he actually teaches you as you go along. and he infuses the work with his great compassion and insight. And it's just a pleasure being in a room with him, and the fact that we were at the end of week 3 and we couldn't get across the finish line that's a hard one to swallow.
You'll see it. We'll see it again, I'm sure. It'll be back soon.
Yeah. And everybody's good about keeping in touch with one another, and we're considering the whole thing as a pause, like a giant pause button. And we hope to be with one another soon.
It's a great way to think about this whole thing. It's just pause.
That's what it is.
Troy asked a question that I want to actually add something to. He asked, what advice or tips can you give to emerging or new lyricists or composers? And what I want to add to that is, what advice do you give to writers out there right now, in the middle of all of this? How do people stay creative, stay motivated, and keep going? What are your tips?
I think each day is new. I think the thing is, you have to be in a position where you allow creativity in, because I get some ideas at a piano. I get many more ideas when I'm not at the piano. I think it's a challenge, but I think at the same time, you have to find ways, very small building blocks to allow your creativity in. I know in the past, like if I've had a disappointing experience, that can wind you, and it can be difficult to like get your mojo back and to get in your rhythm again. And I think everybody is feeling a little bit winded right now from this experience. And I think some people are saying, I must go out and write the biggest symphony I can imagine right now. And I think it's good not to pressure yourself. I think it's good to be kind to yourself right now, to take care of yourself. But if you give yourself a little assignment a day, even if it's like, I'm going to spend this amount of time, I'm going to focus on this idea and try to see what comes up, what burbles up. I think that's a good way maybe to go forward. Don't say I'm going to do my life's masterwork. That's way too much pressure. It's like, don't do that. You'll freeze up. I guarantee it. But I think small self-given assignments, I think could be really a good way to go right now. And also, now that we can share things so readily, via MP3s and the web and whatever, I think to create things and think of them as gifts and give them to your friends and give them to your loved ones. And think of it as a really self-made thing that you just want to give to help somebody. And I think if more people do that, there's going to be a cumulative effect. And will it be the great next era of music? Probably not, but it'll be like the great next week. And I think that's enough for right now.
What a great way. Before we go, you the dramatist.
Yes. A lot of people don't realize, but after Broadway was shut down, and there was a lot of negotiations between the League of Producers and COBUG, which are all the different unions, which represent probably around 75,000 people working in the theater. There was a package. There was a relief package that was that was discussed. That was salary, but health and benefits. And there was a package that benefited what everybody assumed was everybody who works in the theater. And the truth of the matter is none of that money is going to the writers. And the writers are the people that generate the shows to begin with. There would be a blank stage if there was not a writer behind the show. And the reason for that is we're not a union, so we can't collectively bargain, and we're a guild. So by technicality, we're unable to be part of that. So I personally know there are many writers right now that have fallen through the cracks, that are in need of emergency food, shelter, money, ways to pay bills. And the Dramatists Guild Foundation is a charitable organization which serves many writers that have fallen through the cracks. And they're accepting donations now. They're accepting emergency donations. I wrote it on my cheat sheet right here. If you are able to help the foundation, to help writers, to help lyricists, composers, who are going through a difficult time right now. If there's a way that you can see that, I would suggest that you donate to the Dramatist Guild Foundation. It's dgf.org/programs/grants. That's for the emergency grants, or you can, the easier one is dgf.org/donate/donate. So yeah, if you can, it would be greatly appreciated. And I should point out that the president of the foundation is another composer, Andrew Lippa, who really gets in the trenches, and he's doing some wonderful work. But we're all aware that our fellow writers are having a very hard time right now. So whatever you can do, or even spread the word.
We certainly will. Andrew should be on in a few weeks, I think, or maybe next week, and we'll talk about it with him. Thank you so much for joining us. As you know, I've told you this before, but I met you over 20 years ago on Ragtime, and you were such a joy and a thrill, and so generous with your time, and then to produce your show is one of the greatest joys of my life. And you're just a wonderful person on top of being such a wonderful writer. So thank you.
Well, I'm glad that we've known one another all of these years. That Once on This Island, that was like a high point of high points of high points for all of us, not just for me, but for all of us who had the privilege to come into Circle in the Square. It's something I'll never forget.
No, me too. Me too. Thanks for being here. You take care of yourself. Stay healthy. Stay safe. We'll see you very soon, Stephen.
Okay, thanks. All right. Bye-bye.
That's another episode in the can. Stephen is one of the best out there. So thank you so much for being here to watch that. Tomorrow, one of the most sought after directors in our business. Tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern, Sunday night special, Pam McKinnon, who's going to be here. The last production of Virginia Woolf, Heidi Chronicles, a whole bunch more. We're going to see where Pam is hunkered down and what she's doing to keep all of her projects afloat. And how she's staying motivated during this very difficult time. And I have a feeling, knowing Pam, she's going to motivate you at the same time as well. Thanks for being here. Don't forget, stay safe, stay healthy, stay the heck home. Be with us tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Do donate to the Dramatist Guild Foundation if you can. We need these writers to keep on writing right now. If they're not writing, if they have to do something else, then you're not going to be as entertained. Broadway's not going to be as rich as it can be in the future, and this is going to be a very tricky time. So thanks again so much for joining us. We will see you tomorrow, where we have Pam McKinnon and maybe another very special guest. Who? Find out tomorrow, 8 o'clock. See you then, guys.